Disabled villagers who live in a North Yorkshire community have been protesting about new rules they say will threaten their future.
300 individuals and businesses have signed up to offer help to volunteer carers at a North Yorkshire village who face losing their livelihoods and their homes.
Managers at the Camphill Village Trust who run Botton want to stop volunteer workers and replace them with paid carers working shifts.
What has made you worried that they may have to go? Why are you scared?
Because I know what they're going to do next. And I don't want them to be. They'll be still my family forever.
I'm Neil Shearer, and the reason I'm here is because we thought the CVT was the charity for us, but back in May this year, they're asking the co-workers to sign a document to become employees, and otherwise if they don't sign it they will be evicted, and we don't want that.
Some residents and co-workers have called in the police, claiming they've been bullied and harassed by trust managers, a claim the trust denies.
It's an absolute scandal in terms of the lack of consultation that the villagers have had.
I'm scared, upset and frightened.
We might end up one time with carers in the house, and we don't really want that.
The management trust has been accused of intimidation while introducing changes to the way it's run. The trust denies the claims and says changes are needed to comply with the law.
It would fundamentally change the relationship that we have with the people we live with. It would solidify it more into a service user, service provider relationship, and that's not how we are.
When it's possible for other Camphills to stay as co-worker led, why is it not possible for Botton?
Because of the structures and the systems that have changed over the last 10 years.
North Yorkshire Police have confirmed they're looking into the complaints and have said they'll liaise with social workers to assess whether or not the behaviour of the trust amounts to anything criminal.
We've reported on the controversial plans before.
After many attempts at mediation, Action for Botton have supported legal action by co-workers and parents against CVT. One injunction has been granted, and the second injunction will be heard on Thursday the 2nd of April.
And I believe the public would be truly shocked to understand what has actually been going on with the use of taxpayers' money and millions of pounds raised by donors to support the wonderful communities that we, the volunteers and the people with special needs, have created over these last 60 years.
This is Botton Village in North Yorkshire. Camphill was started in the UK back in the 40s by escapees from the Nazis. They wanted to prove the learning disabled could lead fulfilling lives.
Do you remember?
There are now dozens of Camphills across the world, where everybody works together. Resources and income are pooled.
If you talk to Peter, this is his life. We've made a commitment to each other that we're not going to retire. We're just going to slow down. Just keep, because we love doing woodwork together.
The carers here are mainly career volunteers. Instead of receiving a salary, they share housing and food with the residents. Many live together for decades, with all the ups and downs of family life.
I'm not here because, I'm working a 9 to 5 and I'm getting paid. I'm here really to live together with people, and it doesn't begin and end at any certain time. We're in it together. We're in it for the good times, we're in it for the bad times. We'll laugh and we'll argue, and that's real life.
Busy.
What were you doing this morning?
The topping machine.
Topping machine.
Topping machine?
Putting the stick in the middle, it goes all the way up, and then drop to the box.
I see.
And look,
but it's topping machine.
Is that wood?
Oh, I know the one you mean. And it chops wood, and I think
In Botton village there are 32 houses. Each household is run by 2 house parents. Life is lived together. Meals are shared, as are domestic chores. We all try and get on to make each household a happy home for us all.
I try to make it into a healthy, happy social setting for my own family and for my extended family, which includes the villagers. It's like having big brothers and sisters, or more like aunts and uncles, and to share the life together is very enriching. I don't go home to my own house somewhere and put a lot of effort into making that look nice. This is my home together with everybody else, and we all want what's best. We all want to live together comfortably and in harmony with each other. It's not always absolutely harmonious, as no long-term relationship can be. But it does break down barriers. I mean, we tend not to think about each other as co-workers, villagers, who's in charge, who's not in charge. We're really trying all the time, and succeeding a great deal of the time, to work together to make it a worthwhile place to live.
Locally, some churches are supporting the co-workers. The clergy are aghast at the possible end of what's appeared to be a model of shared living for 60 years.
If you want to see Christianity in action, Christian love in practice, Botton is a place to go. It's a place where you can see genuine love and care in action.
Well, this is Gregory, and he's cutting out fishes like this, you know, and then it goes on to the other thing to make it much more smoothly on here, you see. So that's what's happening here. Yeah, that's right. Because someone marks it up first, and then he cuts them out.
That's right, buddy.
Yes. And
well, I've been doing woodwork since when I was 12 years old.
So that's what he's doing.
And I rather like woodwork very much.
This is not work therapy, this is real work which is needed in the world, so to say, and nobody knows or sees that they are made by people with learning difficulties. This Gregory from South Africa, he's here on an exchange from a Camphill place in the Cape, and they haven't really got the work opportunities which they have here. And so they just sort of felt a change of air would be good for him. He came, and you could just sort of see how he blossomed, how he's extremely keen to pick up anything, and how his manual skills develop tremendously. And in that, he's just becoming sort of a more settled human being. He can identify with his work now. You see, he's cutting at the moment. You have seen him, he's cutting out these fishes.
Camphill is a worldwide movement of communities supporting children, young people, adults and older people who have learning disabilities and other support needs. That support is provided using a holistic model of care, support and education. It's an approach that seeks to provide mutual support and nurture independence through living, learning and working together. Now a worldwide movement, Camphill was founded more than 70 years ago in Aberdeen by a group of Austrian refugees, many of whom had had to flee the country in 1939 because they were Jewish. Many of these Camphill communities are also thriving social enterprises, selling homemade breads, cheeses and handicrafts, running cafes in their local communities, or providing community composting facilities. A strong emphasis is placed on each individual achieving their potential, and as much independence as they are able in order to widen their opportunities when making a move to long-term provision later on. Independent scrutiny by the Care Inspectorate confirms that these communities are offering services of the highest quality. The particular strengths of Camphill, as assessed, lie in its creation of therapeutic environments and its particular staffing and management and leadership models. What does concern me is the lack of recognition of the benefits of this approach from statutory authorities. We should encourage a more cooperative approach, with local authorities supporting the best choice for each individual. It's surely wrong when an over-insistence on inclusion in reality turns into isolation and exclusion. I would urge local councils and statutory services to consider a more person-centred approach to what is appropriate for any one individual. And I hope that this debate will help to do that, and I would be grateful if the Minister, in his response, was able to support that call. In closing, Presiding Officer, I pay tribute to the achievements of pupils and residents and to the dedication of staff, co-workers and volunteers in the Camphill movement.
Now, police in North Yorkshire are looking into complaints of bullying and harassment at a community for disabled people.
I'm Jeffrey Spatman. I've lived in Botton since I was 22. I'm now 65 and I also want to get rid of the CVT. Well, they've come to Botton and they started changing certain rules that we can't live with our house parents and they have to move into different houses. They threatened them to leave. They'll have to leave if they don't do it. And the sooner we get rid of the CVT, the better. When I first came here, we did everything for ourselves. And now they come and tell us what's got to be done. And if we don't do it, they threaten the co-workers and they have to leave. Some of them have already left Botton.
I'm Nick Baxter. I'm 43. I've lived here 18 years, nearly 19. I work in the woodwork in the morning, Monday to Saturday, and I'm in the food centre Monday to Fridays, and I like it very much. I like it here because all my friends are here. If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have met Mark, my friend. When I relax in the evening, I listen to my records or read my books or see my friends or something. Sometimes I go out for supper on a Friday night to my lady friend, Helen. She works in High Farm, and I see Helen on a Wednesday. I like Hubbard. Hubbard's always been my life. I like strong men's work, you know.
75 of the 95 disabled villagers have signed a petition against the co-worker move and delivered it to CVT's offices in Malton today.
We as the villagers want to keep the co-workers because you can have a kind of a relationship in them in a way, like really good friends or so. But the thing I'm not so sure about having carers is that you can't really know them, because the problem is you'd have to have different carers every day, and that makes me a little bit concerned.
I probably work about 60 hours a week. Once you start paying someone for their time, you change the relationship that they would then have with the other community members. You're paying for a service then, and then we would also be restricted to 37.5 hours. We wouldn't be allowed to live with the villagers under European laws.
This idyllic community has become a battleground for the residents and those who support them, who are fighting to retain its original vision.
My name is Jackie Rees Johannesson, and we have one of our children, our daughter, is a villager at Botton village, Danby. And she started, and when she came, she actually was had been treated for clinical anxiety from college as a result of less than one term with supported living, which didn't work out. Care agencies or social services or whatever were run by paid staff that came in and out, and one of the weaknesses with that was the lack of continuity. What we liked about Botton and the shared living was the fact that it's a community of adults, some of whom have learning disabilities, and that, I think, just hits it on the, neck that everyone is equal here. And the whole ethos of everybody doing as best they can and everybody else helping each other. And that was great for our daughter, because she's a hard worker and she's quite capable. And but the letters that we got was just so over the top. I mean, it was sort of serious and wow and scary. And the language that we've got consistently has been complex and scary. It seems like there's sort of one thing after another has come up to try and undermine the work of the co-worker structure and the shared living.
When it's possible for other Camphills to stay as co-worker led, why is it not possible for Botton?
Because of the structures and the systems that have changed over the last 10 years.
The requirements of the Charity Commission were clear. They needed greater governance, they needed more structured management, they wanted to see that there was greater accountability. We've put those systems in place that may make us different to other Camphill communities. We need to make the change because we're being told to. We're being told to by the HMRC, the taxman, who has told us that the arrangements we had for co-workers' tax is 15 years old, and there's been huge changes in tax and employment law in that time. And we've been given a very clear message that from April the 6th, HMRC will judge and view our co-workers as being employees.
It's interesting when listening to the Chief Executive Officer of Camphill Village Trust to remember that in the entire history of the Camphill movement, no such position was ever envisaged or intended. Never was it intended that Camphill should become a hierarchically structured, management-led business within what today we call the care industry. Quite the contrary. At the heart of Camphill are the twin concepts of social responsibility and self-management. In Camphill, caring is not an isolated and separate commodity. Rather, it is something that emerges when individuals come together in intentional community, both the able and the so-called less able, when they come together to live with each other, work with each other, and celebrate life together as equals. It is this rich blend that has produced the outstandingly successful and now worldwide Camphill movement. So how come these catastrophic and destructive changes? In 2011, the trustees of Camphill Village Trust, worried about the burgeoning regulation, broke with their 70 years history and with the aims and principles of the Trust in appointing Hugh John as Chief Executive Officer. Hugh John's previous career had involved the closing down of small care homes in Manchester in favour of building a single integrated care facility. This project was a spectacular financial failure. Looking back on the 4 years since his appointment, it's difficult to avoid the conclusion that he and his colleagues have consciously set out to dismantle all of the core elements of Camphill in order to replace it with the form of orthodox, standardised, integrated residential care. They have done this at a time when many are turning away from this model and turning towards models which develop long-term and true relationships. However, after a 4-year campaign of bullying, harassment and intimidation of the co-workers and the co-worker model, and no doubt surprised by the opposition of both the local and the international community to their actions, CVT's justification now for their actions appears to be not that the co-worker model does not work, but that they have been forced to make these changes by government agencies and other regulatory authorities. So, for example, they claim their actions are based on the instructions to take action by the Care Quality Commission, the Charity Commission, the Tax Authority, HMRC, and commissioning bodies like North Yorkshire County Council. And it's true, to the untrained eye and ear, it could appear that this is the case. However, when you carefully unpick CVT's professional and relentless PR spin, you discover that not one of these bodies is forcing them to do anything. Rather, it appears that CVT have consciously approached all of these bodies with what lawyers call leading questions. Leading questions are defined as questions that prompt or encourage the answer wanted. The use of leading questions is very strictly prescribed in courts of law for obvious reasons. I want to illustrate this technique by focusing on the tax issue, although I believe CVT have used a similar approach with other bodies, in order to drive change in the direction they wish. On the tax issue, Hugh Johns said in a Radio 4 interview that co-workers had to become employed because they were, quote, being told to, unquote, by HMRC.
We need to make the change because we're being told to. We're being told to by the HMRC, the taxman.
He went on to say that HMRC had given, quote, a very clear message, unquote, about what they thought the status of co-workers would be.
And we've been given a very clear message that from April the 6th, HMRC will judge and view our co-workers as being employees.
But the actual message given by HMRC in a letter to CVT and subsequently published by CVT states that, quote, the facts we have obtained point and continue to point towards the co-workers being in employment. It looks very much like that CVT have asked the HMRC a question something like this. If this set of circumstances apply, how would you define the employment status of co-workers? And the answer has come back. The facts we have obtained point and continue to point towards the co-workers being in employment. What they have done is clearly asked a leading question and got the answer they wanted. They've done everything possible to paint a picture to HMRC of the co-worker situation which leads them to an obvious answer. That is, the answer they wanted. The reality is quite different. The Treasury itself has confirmed there has been no change in the status of the Trevitt opinion, a 15-year-old legal opinion which enables volunteer workers like co-workers and priests who work 24/7 to work under a clearly defined self-employed status. Co-workers at the Mount Camphill community, which is not governed by the CVT, continue to work under this provision as well as to manage their own community.
This recording is for my son who lives in Botton village. He's lived there now for about 8 years. He has Fragile X syndrome and epilepsy and severe behavioural problems. Before Botton village, he was in supported living where he got mentally abused by care staff there. As soon as there was a vacancy come available, I moved him to Botton village. And for the last 8 years, the co-workers, house parents, they've done an absolutely fantastic job with him. Getting him to trust people again and believe in himself. He's now a farmer. He is so proud to be a farmer. And I'm afraid, or as a parent, I am very, very worried this is all going to be taken away from him. It's hard to fetch a special needs child up, and it's harder still when they grow up to find a place where you think they're going to be safe, secure, happy, cared for. And I found this in Botton village. He's got absolutely wonderful house parents that support him. And it's just such a worry that all this is going to be taken away. It's hard to live with people with special needs. I brought up 2 sons with special needs, and it's very, very difficult. So when you get people like the co-workers in Botton village that want to live with people like my son and provide a happy life with their families, it's just so wonderful. And you think, yeah, this is great now. I know he's going to be safe when I'm not here anymore. And he's going to be happy, which is the main thing. Very happy. And he is happy. I take him away on holidays. I can only take him for a week because after 4 or 5 days, he's itching to get back to Botton. Although they'll be milking on the farm, they'll be having coffee break now. It's his life, and he's got a lovely life there. And he's got such wonderful people that are there, not because they have to be there because they're getting paid as a job. They're there because they want to be with people with special needs. They want to share their lives with them and help them. And they all help each other. And that's the main thing about Botton. And I just hope that everybody can help keep Botton keep Botton how it should be, a spiritual place where everybody just helps everybody and everybody's so happy. People with special needs have an hard time in life anyway, and when you go to Botton you understand what a special place it is, and I just hope everybody can help keep Botton and save Botton.
Now, about 300 individuals and businesses have signed up to offer help to volunteer carers at a North Yorkshire village who face losing their livelihoods and their homes. 30 so-called co-workers live with learning disabled residents, sharing houses at Botton village. But the charity running Botton says that can't continue, and the volunteers must become paid workers.
Co-workers are being asked to become paid employees and not to carry on current living arrangements. Tax rules, says the trust that runs Botton. But support for the co-workers' cause has spiralled. Laura is just one of about 300 people and businesses to have signed up. She's a Botton buddy.
Well, we've contacted lots of local businesses and organisations in the wider Esk Valley, from Commondale right through to Whitby, and the support has been unanimous.
Most co-workers will lose their accommodation in May, but the fear is that when new tax rules kick in April, other benefits will be lost first. Their allowance will be stopped, and they may be dependent on goodwill.
If you need food, we can provide food. If you need money, we can provide money. Some people have said, I've got a spare room. If you need accommodation, we can provide accommodation. I mean, as much support as you can imagine, perhaps a family friend offering you if you were in need.
There are glimmers of hope that the status quo may prevail, though. Legal action is ongoing, injunctions issued. Maybe the bell hasn't yet tolled for Botton's way of life.
Action for Botton, along with parents of residents at 2 other Camphill communities in the UK, run by the Camphill Village Trust, that's Delrow and the Grange, have raised hundreds of thousands of pounds to support the co-worker model and to challenge the Camphill Village Trust in court. Legal challenges have been made about bullying and harassment, unfair dismissal, breaches in human rights, and will be made about gerrymandering of the charity's membership. The principal action against CVT for breach of the Memorandum and Articles of Association has been temporarily stayed by the High Court, pending legal mediation, which should take place at the beginning of June. If the mediation fails, then the principal action will be heard in the High Court, probably within the next 6 months. We believe, though, that what has made most impact on the situation so far, and what in the end will get CVT to alter course, is your voice. The voice of the hundreds of thousands of people in this country and around the world who know, understand and value what has been achieved by this unique and inspiring social impulse. We still desperately need your support. The future needs Camphill. Please help us to make sure it gets it.
I've been walking in the same way as I did, missing out the cracks in the pavement and tutting my heel and strutting my feet. Is there anything I can do for you, dear? Is there anyone I could call? No, and thank you, please, madame. I ain't lost, just wondering. Round my hometown, memories of phrase. Round my hometown, ooh, the people I've made are the wonders of my world, are the wonders of my world, are the wonders of this world, are the wonders of now. I like it in the city when the air is so thick and opaque. I love it to see everybody in short skirts, shorts and shades. I like it in the city when two worlds collide. You get the people and the government, everybody taking different sides. Shows that we ain't gonna stand shit. Shows that we are united. Shows that we ain't gonna take it. Shows that we ain't gonna stand shit. Shows that we are united. Round my hometown, memories are fresh. Round my hometown, ooh, the people I met. Of my world, yeah.